Reading 133 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Dr. Maurice Nicoll, Volume 3. Great Animal House, August 7th, 1948. Buffers, Pictures, and Work Shock. Work idea. We are born awake and without inner contradictions. It is all very tiny. We grow up among sleeping people who have ceased to see their own contradictions because they have formed buffers. So instead of having real conscience, we form buffers too, and also fall asleep, in fact very early. If all people had no buffers, they would have real conscience, and no war, violence, lying, and so on would exist. Commentary. No one can observe a buffer without self-observation and the special memory that comes from self-observation. A man, a woman, must begin to become conscious of certain kinds of contradictions in themselves. Buffers are artificial things that prevent the shocks of contradictions from coming home. They prevent us from seeing what we imagine from false personality we are and did and said, and what we actually are and did and said. Now, without observation, a man cannot change. Always clearly see this. Always meditate on this. If you do not observe yourself, you cannot be different. A man must suffer from his observation of himself, but never become negative. A complacent man, heavily buffered, with pictures of himself, will tend to think the work is good for other people, but that it is not connected with himself in any serious way. Owing to the action of buffers, whereby he does not see contradictions in himself, and the continual activity of self-justifying that goes on in connection with buffers, and the hypnotic effect of pictures of himself, a man, a woman, may pass years, even all their years, in the work, without yet seeing how it applies to them here and now. That is, they remain asleep, even though the work is trying to waken them at every moment. To shift from where you are, Gurdjieff said, it is necessary to divide yourself into an observed and an observing side. Now, for everyone, without exception, it will take a very long time to see what one is apart from imagination. This is merciful. As Gurdjieff said, if a man's buffers were suddenly destroyed, then he would see all the contradictions in himself. He would then go mad. You must try to see that some people, naturally, I am not speaking of any of you, attribute to themselves, say, great kindness. They live on one side of a buffer. This is a picture. They can easily hate, but excuse themselves. They attribute to themselves great efficiency, the capacity to deal with every situation, and actually are stupid. Or it may be they attribute to themselves steadiness, calmness, and so on. Now, it would take a long time to enumerate all the virtues that people, naturally of course, I am not speaking of ourselves, attribute to themselves. On the flimsiest grounds, people attribute good qualities, that is, what they esteem as virtues, to themselves. So they rest in themselves on pictures which prevent them from seeing the other side of the buffer. Such people are not yet tested. What is real in oneself can never become a cause of being upset or become a picture. We had a paper on this point recently, where it was recommended that one should notice where one becomes touchy. It was said that one is always touchy about something that is not real in oneself. Some pretense. That is, some picture. A picture is a form of imagination about oneself that does not correspond with the reality of oneself. It does not take in the opposite side. That is, the side on the other side of the buffer. A buffer stands like a wall between two sides that contradict each other. No one, said O, can grow if they are nothing but a mass of buffers. He added that once a buffer is destroyed, it can never form itself again. He also said that Gurdjieff taught that as long as we live by means of buffers, that prevent us from seeing contradictions? Real conscience can never open to us. Acquired conscience is quite different. Real conscience is the same for all people. Now, today, I am speaking of pictures in connection with buffers. One can see the agreeable, even wonderful side of oneself, being so good, tactful, and kind, and all the rest. Let us observe ourselves a little deeper than that sort of surface psychology. I say, for all the heaven's sake, let us go deeper, even so far as seeing the other side of the picture that we cling to. That is, the other side of the buffer, this intervening wall that lies between our imagination, what we imagine, and what we are, and keeps us comfortable and prevents real conscience from touching us. This dark side, that is not acknowledged, not conscious side, must be mixed with the other side. Yes, very disturbing it is to be touched by real conscience. It is indeed merciful that we have plenty of buffers and pictures to stifle it, especially as it has little or nothing to do with our ideas of what it is to be good, kind, patient, right, calm, tolerant, and all the rest of the things that the false personality prides itself on possessing and ascribes to itself. Only the realization of one's own nothingness, in its first rather terrible visitation, can make you understand what I mean here. When you begin to realize there is practically nothing in you that is worth anything under the incandescent light of real conscience. So it seems that the object of the work is, how shall I put it? Well, say, to shake us up a little bit, to shift us a little bit, to make us think in a new way a little bit, to make us see ourselves a little more differently. Yes, that is putting it very nicely. It is such a long process, is it not? It is certainly what the work is about. Namely, it is about you and about you changing even a little bit. But how we resent being given even a little shake, a small shock. How pictures, buffers, self-justifying, and the giants of pride and vanity, and all the hosts of false personality gather their forces together and hiss and spit and are outraged, offended at the very suggestion that one is not the most perfect example of manhood and womanhood on this earth. Just notice for yourself, say, when you are given a little shock,